You are watching the Target 2.2 retest film. In this target, we're going to learn about function notation and learn how to evaluate some different functions using function notation and exactly what that means. So make sure you have your white paper, your white packet out. I'll actually do problems in the packet. Any questions you have can be handled by your classroom teacher before or after school or during advisement. So let's start out with this. This isn't necessarily in your packet, but it's a good thing to write down way up on top. This right here is the function's name, f. You can put any name you want, any letter, any name. This right here is the variable that's used in the rule, and this over here is the rule. So the rule says that you multiply x by 2, and then you add the 1. And what that does for you is it takes any x that you plug in for the variable, for example 3, and when you plug that in and evaluate, 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7, it becomes an output in the y. So when you evaluate the rule, you get the y value that's attached to the x. So again, replay that if you want to hear that again, but it's name and variable, and then you have a rule on the other side. Okay, next we're going to actually look at a few problems that are in your packet. We're going to start out with number 5 and number 6, and then go to number 10 and number 15. These are all linear ones, so they should be pretty easy for you to do. But let's take a look at number 5. This is function g. So we're going to look at function g, which is right here. And instead of a, we're going to replace it with 2. So notice it says g of 2. Notice the a is replaced with 2. That just means in the function, we're going to replace every place there's an a, we're going to put 2. So there's where a was, 4 times a. But instead of a, we're going to put 2. And then we're going to use PEMDAS to work it out. Multiply before add. So this is 8 and 5, or 13. Okay, again, function g, that's just right here. And instead of x, we're going to replace it with -4. So g of -4, notice the x gets replaced with -4. So everywhere x is in the rule, we're going to put in -4. So that becomes -8 minus 2. So down 8, down 2 is -10. That's the answer. Now 10 and 15 are a little different. We're going to replace x with an expression. So instead of x, we're going to put t minus 1. All right, so they're still using function p, that's right here. And notice that x gets replaced with t minus 1. So everywhere there's an x, that's where x was, we're going to put t minus 1. How do you simplify that? You use the distributive property, -3t, and -3 times -1 is +3. And then we can add like terms. So you end up with -3t plus 4 for an answer. Okay, that's as far as you take it. There's no numbers to plug in for t. We're plugging that expression in for x. So again, function w, it's right here. And notice now we have an a, instead of a, we have a plus 2. So everywhere there was an a in the function, like right there, we're going to put in a plus 2. So notice that gets replaced everywhere. 2 got replaced with the x, instead of x, we put in -4. Also notice that we don't do anything with the left-hand side. So this side stays exactly where it is. So on the test, I think there was a mistake made by one of the people in the test itself, where they actually took that and tried to solve for G or W or A or something like that. You don't touch that side at all. You just do the right side. So distributive property, 2 times A, 2 times 2, and then add like terms, you end up with 2A plus 1 for an answer. All right, if you need any more help with that section of problems, make sure you see your teacher before or after school, or you can replay the film and watch it again and again and try to figure it out from there. Let's move on to number 22, 23, 27, and 30. These we're just doing some numbers, so notice they're just numbers, but the functions, the rules have some different functions in them. So we have squareds and cubes, some exponents. We have absolute value also. The idea is still the same though. So function p, notice we're replacing x with -4. That means everywhere there's an x. So there's an x there, but there's also an x there. We're going to replace that with -4. So PEMDAS says exponents before multiply and divide. So this is not 8 squared, it's negative 4 squared, and then we'll multiply by 2. So let's handle the exponents first. Negative 4 squared is 16. And then 2 times 16 is 32. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. And when you combine those two together, you get 20. Let's look at number 23. This one uses function w, and it looks like we're replacing n with 2. That means everywhere there's an n, we need to put a 2. So here there's an n, here there's an n, we'll replace it with 2. And again, we need to do exponents first. So that's 2 cubed. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So 2 cubed is 8. And then we'll do multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. And we'll do add and subtract for an answer of 4. And down at the bottom, we have absolute values. But the idea is still the same. Function h, and it's h of 8. So we're going to replace 8 with, we're going to replace a with 8. So here is 8. And then we'll take care of everything inside the absolute value first, do the absolute value, and then add the 3 because it's on the outside. So 3 times 8 is 24. And 24 plus 1 is 25. The absolute value of 25 is 25. And when you add 3, you get 28. That's your answer. Again, function g. We're replacing t with negative 4. So here's where t was. Again, these two things on the outside of the absolute value, we're going to wait to do after we do the absolute value. So let's plug negative 4 in where t was. You end up with negative 4 minus 1, that's negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So we'll change those, they become parentheses then because it's multiply. Negative 10 plus 2 ends up being negative 8 for an answer. Okay, if you didn't understand the exponents or the absolute value, make sure that you go in and see your teacher, or you can rewind this, watch it a few times. You'll get it. Okay, lastly, we're going to do 25 and 28. These involve looking at a table or a graph and figuring out the values. So remember now, it's x on this side, y on this side. Okay, here's the x-axis, here's the y-axis, here are x's, and here are y's. So it should be kind of easy to figure out as long as you know that the x is here and the y is here. So in this problem, 25, this must be an x, and we're looking for the y. So look under x column for 5, follow it over, the answer is 9. Okay, and same with the next one. It's in parentheses, just like this was. That must be the x, so we look in the x column for 3, follow it over, the answer is 5. Whereas the next one, notice it says f of x equals 5. The 5 is now the y. So let's look in the y column for 5. There it is. And we'll follow it back over. The answer, x equals 3. And same with this one. The y value is 3. That's right here. We'll follow it back over. X must be 2. All right, let's move on to number 28. Notice this is a graph. So again, the one in parentheses is x. So we're going to look on the x value for 3. There it is. And we're going to follow it to the graph. It looks like the graph goes right to there. That is a y value of 5. This is actually 3 comma 5. So the answer here is 5. Whereas the next one, we're looking for x. So the negative 3 must be y. So on the y axis, you follow it down to 3. There's 3. And we want to know everywhere where it's 3. So x is in both of those places. So keep in mind, whenever you have something that curves around, you're probably going to have another value for x where it's equal to that y. So again, then f of 0, here's 0, that's in the x place. We follow it over. And we go down. We want to find the y value that's matched with it. This point is actually 0, negative 5. So that answer must be negative 5. And then finally again, f of x equals 0. So we want to know where y is 0. So y is 0 right here. All of these places. This is negative 2 comma 0. This is 2 comma 0. This point and this point. So x is negative 2. X is also 2, both places. So that's what I noticed the most on the test is you forgot that second point. So make sure you try to locate all the places where y is 0 or all the places where y is -3 and tell me what the x values are for those. Okay, there you go. You can rewind and listen to this, or you can go see your teacher before or after school or an advisement. Make sure you finish the packet before you are allowed to retest.